Good afternoon to all our friends and fans. This is Michael Virardi. It's Ask Virardi time. It's our 136th live streaming episode, and I'm so happy to welcome today Captain Parani for our 136th episode. Captain Parani, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael.
It's a pleasure to have you. Captain Parani is the author of The Golden Stripes, Leadership on the High Seas, which is the world's first ever book on leadership by a merchant mariner. I read books, I'm an avid reader. Some books I finish them, some books I leave them right in the middle. But this book, I have devoured it. So I highly recommend it, and that's the main reason I have called Captain Parani to come on this show. A few things about Captain Parani. Parani has written this book from his observations after being 25 years in the shipping industry, both at sea and also at shore. And at the age of 29, he was one of the youngest ever captains in a fleet of 200 ships. Since then, he has been holding responsible positions in the corporate offices of shipping companies worldwide. Originally from the Andaman Islands, he and his family have made their way to Cyprus, which they made their home in the last 5 years, and he hopes to stay here for a long time. We hope to have him here for a long time as well. So Captain Parani, welcome to the Ask Virardi show.
Thank you very much, Michael. I love your show, and I love the way you share success stories, and I'm thrilled and honored to be here.
We're thrilled and honored to have you here as well. Dear friends and fans, if you want a chance to win one of 3 signed books of Captain Parani's, I highly recommend the book. I've read it page to page from cover to cover. So you only have to share this episode or mention someone you think is worth watching this episode. So Captain Parani, first and foremost, can you tell us a few things about yourself so our readers can meet the man and the personality behind this marvel of a book?
Sure, Michael. So to start with, I grew up in the Andaman Islands, which is a chain of 572 islands, all put together the size of Cyprus. And pretty similar, just that it rains 9 months a year. And growing up, I looked at the ships, and the only thing I wanted was to become a ship's captain. And thanks to the universe, I got a chance in shipping, and I got to eventually realize my childhood dream of becoming a ship's captain. And since then, I've been working in various shore offices, both in Hong Kong and the last 5 years in Cyprus.
Wow. And you also have a family, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I have a wife and a 10-year-old daughter, and they both love Cyprus.
10-year-old daughter, but you look very young. If I may ask you, what is your age?
I'm 42, Michael.
42. Yes. You don't look your age. You don't look your age. That's good.
Thank you.
Question number 2. Sure. I have before me an author who can definitely compare with the best leadership authors in the world. I'm not saying this as a compliment because I would never put my on the line, because it's very important people would understand it. Where did all this creative writing flair come from, and were you a talented writer since childhood?
Yeah, thanks, Michael, for your kind words about the book. And I don't know if I'm talented or not, but one thing I know for sure, that talent alone doesn't get the job done. There's perspiration and there's dedication. And more than a writer, I think I've been an avid reader since childhood. So I just devoured books. My parents encouraged my habit, and being an avid reader, and I think writing was a natural progression.
Excellent. So talent is not enough, perspiration and dedication, and being an avid reader.
Absolutely.
If you had to attribute a percentage to one of the following 3 pillars, yes: inspiration, perspiration, you talked about, and experience, what percentage would you give to each one when it comes to successfully writing your book?
If you don't mind, Michael, I'll add 2 more.
Yes, please.
Courage and feedback. So we have inspiration, perspiration, experience, courage, and feedback. So for inspiration, an author needs to bring out an original thought, and to put it in a way which the reader will say, wow, or aha. I don't know how you felt about it.
I felt exactly like that, because you take real life stories,
yes,
or stories that resonate with us, or stories we can realize, and we had this aha moment, or I had this aha moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
It's good to know.
Yes.
And for perspiration, yes, I've been working a full-time job. I still do. And that takes a lot of my time and energy. And the only time I had was during weekends, and I used to also let go of my annual leave to write, and that took a lot of determination. And experience, yes, our experience, they shape the world views. And what's more important is what we take away from those experiences. Do we hang on to the negative ones, or do we reflect on it and we say what we could have done better?
It's like the proverb, when you lose, don't lose the lesson.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. And courage, yes. You need a lot of courage to share your views with the world, and because you open yourself to both praise and criticism. And I wasn't too good at it. It took me about 10 levels of editing and about 30 international reviews to make me courageous enough to share my book with the world. And lastly, for the feedback, yes. Lastly, for the feedback, I think without feedback, the book wouldn't have progressed from where it was at the start to the end. My wife was my first editor, and she got another chance to just find faults with me. But I'm grateful for all the help I've had, including the publishers who just did a fantastic job with the cover.
Excellent. And I remember you telling me about your wife, that she was the first critic.
Yes.
But that helped you a lot because
Absolutely.
you reframed, you restructured, and you even changed some of the writing style.
True.
Yes.
That's very true.
That's what I remember. Let's get into the book.
Sure.
On page 18, you mentioned the following: competency is only a starting point.
Yes.
Aim for expertise. Can you please be so kind, so you can elaborate on that so our viewers can benefit?
Sure, Michael. In the book, there's a story I share. I had just got my navigator's license, and I was just 21 years old, but I thought I knew everything. And but luckily for me, on the first day, the ship lost its steering and it almost went and hit the rocks. And it was an eye-opener for me, and I knew that I had a long list of things to learn before I could become successful in my career, or at least I could endeavor to be successful. And we have a choice, Michael. I've learned along the way, we have a choice whether to be good or to be great at our job.
Wow, excellent.
And the competency or the diplomas, they are good enough to do the routine jobs. But I think most of your audience will agree that every day we have new things coming up, unfamiliar things coming up, and you are asked for solutions. And if you're a leader, people will come to you for answers. And to be able to give an answer, you need to be an expert in your subject matter.
Totally correct.
And that's why competency is only the starting point. Aim for expertise.
Competency and then aim for expertise.
Yes.
Excellent. In your book on page 74, you mentioned the following: give special focus to unfamiliar tasks. And then you go on to talk about assumptions.
Yes.
In the age of specialization, where we preach and teach that we should do the most important and the most urgent things, and delegate the rest to somebody who can do it at least 80% as well as we can. How does this compare to your thinking? Or is this contrary to your thinking?
Yes, Michael, this is based on facts. And what I have seen in my research is that about when the master is navigating, when the mariners are navigating and they are approaching an unfamiliar port, the chance of accident increases by about 30%. When engineers are overhauling an engine and it's a new kind of engine, or they haven't done the job before, the chance of breakdown increases by 60%. In the United States, they found that airline pilots, when they work with new crews, or the new cockpit crew, the chance of accidents increases by 73%.
Unbelievable.
So that's why what happens is, when people go from routine tasks to unfamiliar tasks, they start assuming that it is just another task, and they don't give it that much importance. And hence my recommendation that when you have an unfamiliar task, give special focus to it to get the job done in a safe way.
Very well answered, giving us left brain statistics, which really helps. 30, 60%, and then 79. Very good. Last question about the book in terms of pages.
Sure.
On page 103, you mentioned the following: it's your ship.
Yes.
If you take care of it, it will take care of you. If I have to transfer and translate this into the corporate world, because the corporate world is watching us, I would say this is your company, or these are your employees.
Yes.
If you take care of them, they will take care of you. Why is it that so many directors, owners, managers fail to take care of their employees, which will eventually take care of their company, their customers, and themselves? Why do you think that is?
Okay, let me give an example from this book, Michael. There was this tanker Breyer in 1993. It was going from Norway to Canada, and along the way they had rough weather, and they had some steel pipes on their aft deck, and the steel pipes became loose, and they were moving about in the rough seas, and the chief engineer who was responsible, he went to secure them, but he was struggling with it and he could not manage to put them together. The captain was watching from top, but he didn't do anything to help. He said that's his job and let him handle it. And the other navigators were also watching the captain, and they said, okay, if the captain doesn't care, why should we care? And ultimately the pipes, they hit a fuel line, and there was the engines were stalled, and the ship drifted onto the rocks and it sank. And so what we can see from this is because the captain didn't care for what his shipmate had a problem, and the ship sank. So I think most leaders, whether on the ship or in the corporate world, they start off with a positive intention. They want to do good things. But along the way, they forget that leadership is an action. It's not a position.
Wow.
And they try to focus on keeping the position or to use the position to their advantage. So they use their whims and fancies for the decision making, or they promote their own self-interest, surround themselves with yes men, and they forget about what leadership actually stands for.
I love your reply. I even recall now a great leadership author, Simon Sinek, which says something very similar to what you have just said. Let's go to the next question.
Sure,
and we have regards from London, from Evis Zenyos. Thank you very much, Evis. Evis sends his best regards. To write about leadership the way you write about it, it's obvious that you're a capable and genuine leader. At least that's my personal experience. I know you might not be able to talk about it yourself.
Thank you,
from having met you before this show, a long time before this show. What is in your opinion, the most important leadership quality? Because we have young millennials and friends following us, and it's good for them to know, and also for our experienced viewers. What is, in your opinion, the most important leadership quality?
Michael, the essence of leadership has been unchanged throughout the years, throughout millennia. And in this book, I talk about Sir Ernest Shackleton. He was a very famous merchant mariner and an Arctic polar explorer. And people used to describe him as a Viking with a mother's heart. So we have similar examples from ancient Greece as well, from the Spartans and from Aristotle. And in one word, courage with equanimity.
Wow, a Viking with a mother's heart.
Yes.
Courage with equanimity.
Yes.
Very good. What's the biggest lesson that you have learned in this year, or maybe in 2016? One of the recent biggest lessons that you've learned?
Well, I think I've learned one new thing every day. That's life. And but if you were to ask me one, I would say be positive and work hard. This is both from my personal experiences, ups and downs, as well as what I've seen in the last 5 years with the Cyprus, this amazing turnaround. And it has just reinforced the belief that by staying positive and by working hard, good things will come.
And you're a positive person. Every interaction with you was positive.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Even your replies here are fantastic. Who was your first ever mentor or mentors, and what's the biggest lesson you have learned from them?
I think my first mentors were my parents. They taught me how to walk and talk. And also my father, he taught me that work is worship. He used to tell me this very often, that we have to put our work ahead of ourselves. And so he taught me that this was important. And later I had other mentors who taught me how to do the job well.
Work is worship. I was telling the same thing today to my personal assistant in other terms, but that's the message. Please name a book that have positively influenced your personal and professional life. How and why? Because I know you're a person who's an avid reader, so which book?
I think there are many books, Michael, and if I have to point out one, I would say The Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. He wrote this many decades ago, but what he wrote, I think, still stands good today. I think the man was amazing. He was ahead of his time.
What's the thing that really influenced you about the effective executive? What's the one thing? I mean, there are many that I read the book as well, but was there something in particular?
Yes. Okay. Personally, I was moving from a life on the ship to the shore, and it was a totally different experience. And to manage my time and how to delegate effectively, the basics of being a manager. This was it was like he was speaking to me, from the book.
Excellent. We have some questions coming in.
Sure.
Stathis Tasis says hello from Nicosia. Hello, Stathis.
Hello, Stathis.
And Jogesh Jain says amazing talk, very insightful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jogesh. Stathis is asking the following: what's your definition of success, and what do you value most in life? What is your definition of success, and what do you value most in life? You are a father, you are a husband, yes. You were a captain on a ship.
Yes.
What's the definition of success, and what do you value most in life?
Well, like I mentioned, it was my childhood dream to become a ship's captain. And the day I became one, I think I felt successful. The day I became a father, I felt successful. And I believe every day to be grateful for the things we have, from just the ability to see the sunrise, to have the fresh air, to be grateful. I think to be able to do that, I think that's success.
I believe you have answered these questions spot on, and Stat is reaching for your goals, and being humble in the way that Parani is tells a lot about you.
Thank you, Michael.
Another question we received online that was a few days ago comes from Stefanos Konstantinou. He's the general manager of a big pharmaceutical distribution company in Cyprus. Okay. He says, how did you perform under pressure, especially when you have to take on serious decisions at sea? You can find all about this in here, but I hope you win it, Stefanos, so you can read about it, but you have the man himself to tell you.
Thank you, Stefanos, for the question. Yes, decision making is very important in leadership, and it's at the end of the day, everything we do about leadership, it boils down to the decisions that we make. Our leadership is defined by the decisions we make. And to break your question into two parts, the first one about handling the pressure. I think handling the pressure is not just about that moment, but what we do in leading up to that moment. That means how we de-stress ourselves every day. What are the routines and what are the habits we do to release the pressure and to be able to cope up with the pressure. So these are the habits and the mindsets which bring us to the moment that we have clarity of thought and the ability to handle pressure in any given moment. Excellent. So that's, and the second part is about the mechanics of decision making. I have described this in this book. So decision making is a process. It's got logic. It's got a process flow, but it's also an emotionally loaded process. So our emotions as well, they influence the decision making. And so there are a few processes that I have described.
And you describe them in here?
Yes, they are in here. And at the end, when you're faced with two choices, both almost equal, I think go with your gut instinct.
I don't know if there is a diagram, if I remember well, or yes. you depicted it so vividly that I see it as a diagram. But
there is a diagram.
There is a diagram, I remember it. And that's what separates humans from robots at the end of the day. I think this emotional part you were talking about.
Yes.
So Captain Parani, it has been a fantastic day here. The last 20 minutes were excellent. Can you give us a final message for all our Michael Virardi fans and friends who are watching this now live or who will watch it later on recorded?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I mean, the time just flew by, and it's been great. And I've mentioned in this book that I love feedback. And what I would ask is from the audience is please feel free to share your feedback, your thoughts, your comments with me about the book or my blogs. The best way to reach me is through my website, parani.org. There's an email button there. And I'm also writing the sequel for the book. And if you have any ideas, any stories, any comments, anything you feel should go in there, excellent, please feel free to share. I'll try to put them in my blog or in my book.
Where can someone find the book? Where can they purchase the book? Because we're going to have 3 winners. But where can other people purchase the book?
The book is available through the publishers, Whittles Publishing from Scotland. It's also on Amazon UK, and in Cyprus, in Limassol, we have in the Kyriako bookshops.
Okay, and it's going to go to other bookshops as well?
Yes, true.
Cyprus-wide. So, dear friends and fans, it was a pleasure and an honor having Captain Parani here. In a nutshell, he told us that talent is not enough. You have to have perspiration and dedication to what you're doing. Being an avid reader has helped because during the time he was younger, there was no internet, so he could travel the world through reading books. He talked about 5 pillars of success: inspiration, perspiration, courage, and feedback, which is very important. He said that when he was 21 years old, he thought he knew everything, but thank God he failed, because when you lose, you shouldn't lose the lesson. Yeah. He always says you have a choice to be good or to be great, and he says that we should opt to be great at what we do, at our job. He talked about specialization, but he said that unfamiliar tasks are also the key to success, because sometimes you avoid accidents and mishaps from happening, and great leaders know those unfamiliar tasks. Leadership is not an action, but it's not an action. It's an action, not a position. So we act. It's not a title we have.
Yes, true.
As Robin Sharma said, leading without a title.
Yes.
Be a Viking with a mother's heart. So be strong. Be willing to face difficulties, but at the same time be compassionate. And he says that you have to be positive and work hard at what you love doing. And as his father told him, work is worship. And it's very important that you love your work so people can worship your results. Thank you very much for tuning in. It was a pleasure, and see you all here next Monday with another very interesting episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.